Minneapolis to spend 6.4 million to hire more police officers. Minneapolis will spend 6.4 million to hire dozens more police officers after a large number of cops left the department in the aftermath of George Floyd's killing and the protests that followed. Minnesota City Police Department said it has just 638 officers available to work, 200 fewer than in recent years, the Star Tribune reported. You have 200 fewer than in recent years. Something must be going wrong with that police department. Several cops quit, retired, or went on extended medical leave, many for PTSD claims after last spring's riots that included a precinct being burned down and calls to end the police force. Some 155 officers remain on some form of extended leave, the report said. In the months since the protests, many residents have urged the city to hire more cops, saying they're waiting longer for responses to 911 calls amid the surge of violent crime. You want to defund the police, right? The additional funding for the force, unanimously approved by the city council on Friday, comes even as some council members and activist groups are pushing to dismantle the department, saying police haven't proven effective at reducing crime. 3 council members have proposed to replace the force with a public safety department that would include policing and other services. A coalition of community activists called Yes for Minneapolis are working to get a similar proposal on the November ballot. Listen, this was bound to happen, okay? Instead of having police reform, okay, have police reform and have reform on both sides of the aisle. The black community, the communities, period, that the police have to patrol, and the police department, especially with this George Floyd situation, okay? Yes, George Floyd was overdosing. He had a part to play in his demise, but Derek Chauvin's actions are inexcusable. What he did was wrong as a senior officer, okay? And those officers should have jumped in and did something, okay? If in your gut you feel something's wrong, especially with him having his knee on George Floyd's neck for almost 9 minutes, they should have acted on it, not joined in. And this defund the police nonsense, it is exactly what it is. It is nonsense. Look at Minneapolis now, surging crime. Now they're begging the police officers to come back, just like it was in Baltimore. Oh, you didn't want the police there. Now crime went up the roof. Now you're begging for the police to come back. You look foolish. And unfortunately, you're going to have blacks that are saying defund the police. I do believe this is by design, though. I do believe they want total chaos. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the elite. Call me a conspiracy theorist. Say whatever you want. But let's just get something clear. The way things have been going in this country and around the world is no longer conspiracy theories. They're conspiracy facts. It's order out of chaos. Okay? Capitalizing on the chaos to bring order. They'd be so desperate when it's nothing but crime and looting and violence that they will beg for somebody to save them and to bring back law and order. And that's what's going to happen. It just haven't reached a good situation where the people will completely give over to whatever entity will promise them safety and protection and law and order and security. But this right here, I think Minneapolis has learned its lesson with this defund the police nonsense. Okay? I think they've learned their lesson. And hopefully other states will learn their lesson if they side with this defund the police nonsense. The police don't need to be defunded. They need to be reformed. They need to be have more psychological evaluations, more checkups for these cops for what they go through, weeding out the bad cops and helping the good cops, helping these cops with what they face day to day, giving them psychological help. And this police department definitely is in desperate need of reform. It has just 638 officers available for work and 200 fewer than the recent years. That means you have a terrible record with the community, and you have some corruption going on, and people are quitting. And that's the problem. And I blame the protests of not looking at all the angles of this George Floyd situation. Okay? Now looking at all angles. And the cops who were on the force and quit, they had a right to, because nobody had their back. And not only not having their back, the good cops I'm talking about, but nobody's willing to lay down the law. Okay, when it came to crooked cops and bad cops doing stuff like this, and they have a history. Okay, that's the real issue here. Not willing to lay down the law when it comes to these crooked cops and what they do wrong, and letting them get away with it time and time again. That's the problem here. Let's look at this one. George Floyd cop Derek Chauvin used similar tactics against other suspects. And this was what, sparked off the riots, because the department's not willing to do what's needed to handle these clowns. And good cops are suffering because of it. The good cops probably quit. The good cops just basically ran for their lives because they don't want to be caught up dealing with the hatred from the public and dealing with the hatred of dirty cops on the force. George Floyd cop Derek Chauvin used similar tactics against other suspects, report. The ex-Minneapolis cop charged in the police custody death of George Floyd used similar strong-arm tactics against 6 other suspects since 2015, according to the new report. Derek Chauvin, 44, was fired following Floyd's death on May 25th, used neck restraints, including kneeling on them as he did with Floyd, against a half dozen other people of color in Minnesota City. A report released this week by the Marshall Project contends. He just stayed on my neck, Zoe Code, who was restrained by Chauvin in 2017, told the nonprofit journalism organization. When an angry Code challenged the former cop to press down harder, he did. Just to shut me up, she said. She said she finally pleaded with the cop, don't kill me. Prosecutors in Chauvin's second-degree murder case and Floyd's death asked the judge to allow details of Code's arrest to be used in the case against him. Chauvin was seen on video pressing his knee against the back of Floyd's neck while he was handcuffed and pleading, I can't breathe. 3 other since-fired officers are charged with aiding and abetting. Last week, a judge approved the request to cite Code's case, but said 5 other instances, both on and off duty, in which Chauvin is accused of using chokeholds or excessive restraints will not be allowed at the trial. See, this is the problem. Sometimes even the judge is backing the cops, crooked cops. This blue wall of silence has to stop. It has to stop. It does. I just wish Deputy Clyde Kerr was still around instead of killing himself, because he had so much to say and such the right attitude and everything. It's just I'm guessing what he dealt with in the service and what he dealt with on the force, it just broke him. And he just checked out. And I really wish he hadn't done that. But researchers at the Marshall Project interviewed Code and 3 other alleged victims and eyewitnesses of the other cases for which Chauvin was never disciplined. That's the problem right here. Never disciplined. All 4 people of color, 2 are black, 1 is Hispanic, and the other Native American, the report said. In the earliest instance, Chauvin was working as an off-duty security guard at the Minneapolis nightclub on February 15th, 2015, when he got into a scuffle with carpenter Julian Hernandez. The report said Hernandez and Chauvin was pushing him out of the club when things escalated. He said Chauvin put him in a chokehold In another encounter in April 2016, another man, Jimmy Ballstick, was accused of panhandling by a local shopper who called the police. The next thing I felt was arms just wrapped around my neck, Ballstick said. I started telling him, let me go. I have trouble breathing. I have asthma. I can't breathe. Looking back on Mr. Floyd, that could have been me, he said. And I would no longer be alive now, even to tell my story. In a March 2019 incident, Sir Really Pete, 26, was asking cops for a ride when he got into a scuffle with Chauvin after he refused to take his hand out of his pockets. In a March 2019 incident, Sir Really Pete, 26, was asking cops for a ride when he got into a scuffle with Chauvin after he refused to take his hands out of his pockets. Why did you want to take your hands out of your pockets? You're talking to a cop and you wanted a ride home. You're the one in need. See, this is the thing. When you're asking somebody for something, a favor, and they ask you for their own safety, to take your hands out of your pockets, especially giving a ride to someone they don't know, comply or walk wherever you got to go. I don't feel sorry for Sir Really Pete in this situation. The ex-cop reportedly tried to grab Pete and a struggle ensued when Chauvin allegedly macing the man, taking him to the ground and handcuffing him behind his back. He said, I can't breathe. Can I put my head up? Eyewitnesses Monroe Skinway recalled, and they just held his face in the water, and I couldn't see a purpose for that. Okay, he could have died. Chauvin's lawyer, Eric Nelson, argued against including the prior incidents at his client's upcoming trial and Floyd's death. Yeah. Nelson did not he's a defense attorney. That's what he's supposed to do. He's trying to defend his client and trying to, get him off. That's what a defense lawyer do. If you're a defense lawyer, you have a client and you're trying to get him off, you don't want anything that's damning to prevent that. Nelson did not respond to a request for comment from the Marshall Project, but said in court papers that there was nothing unreasonable or unauthorized in his client's earlier incidents. The lawyer said there was no evidence that Chauvin acted improperly and that he committed no crimes in restraining the suspects. And this is what's going to happen. You don't clean house, someone's going to clean that house for you, or they're going to burn your house down. And that's what's happening, especially in with the LA Deputy Sheriff's Department dealing with the white supremacy in their ranks, the banditos, the jump out boys, and the executioners. Okay, those are white supremacist groups in the police department running around, beating and even killing minorities, even beating up and assaulting minority officers, fellow sheriff deputies. And they're real in deep. It's very hard. It's very hard to even go against them because they have protection. They even plant, ghost gun, what they call it. And that's basically they just pull out a weapon. And even though the suspect doesn't have a weapon, they just pull out a weapon and see that he had a weapon. So we had to beat him up. There was an incident where they even took a baton and jabbed it into a minority suspect's eye. A baton. And this was the actions of the jump out boys. So defunding the police is not an option. Cleaning house is an option. But, I doubt that's going to happen until more incidents like this happens. More riots are going to happen, unfortunately, because there's there's a lot of people that are in too deep, from probably the internal affairs to, people who are the desk sergeants. Clean house. There has to be a clean house. But defunding the police is not a smart idea. Crime is on the rise. Criminals would love for the police to be defunded. Criminals would love it. And communists would love that. Marxists would love the police to be defunded. Because now they create their own law, and whoever they don't like, whoever they don't want to be in their clique, is going to be roadkill. Also, you do not want private security being police, okay? Because they only work at a certain amount of hours compared to regular police that work 24/7. And only the rich are going to be able to afford private police, private security. This is what the liberals want. Defund the police. They want chaos. They want communism. And they don't like blacks. It's Marxists. Who do they follow? Karl Marx. What did Karl Marx say about blacks? A lot of bad things about blacks. Look him up. The man was an insane Satanist too. All right. You can look up his poems, Human Pride. All right. Hope I wasn't ranting. Just want you guys to be staying informed. Life is not going to get better, people. It's going to get worse. And we're in Biden's America now. We had Trump's America. Now we're in Biden's. Both crooks, both psychopaths. All right. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later. What's up, Low Key T? So how's the mic? You like the mic? I got a better mic, so hopefully you could hear me clearly. So, all right. On to the next story. Later.